Hey, what's up, guys? Today I want to do an extended video on the slippery slope fallacy. A very interesting question was raised about it recently, but before I get to that question, we have to recap what the slippery slope fallacy is. It's the error in which you claim that if we take a certain course of action or believe a certain thing or take a certain position, then all of these unforeseen and irrelevant events will occur and lead to some undesirable conclusion without showing why those events are relevant. It's sort of understood that they're irrelevant. Nor do we show in that process why the conclusion itself is undesirable. So the question that was raised was, how do we determine the relevance of the evidence provided that is supposed to lead to that undesirable conclusion? Like, what mechanism do we use? What's the process? What's our standard there? This raises a very important question about logic itself. What do we mean by relevance? Well, it's important to remember that the slippery slope is a logical fallacy. And logic is in the business of showing implication, revealing the form of an argument. It's not really about the content of the argument itself. It's not about causes and effects, therefore. That's the business of science and inductive systems. Science is inductive. It's the knowledge that we gain through it is justified from the outside. It's justified by our experiences, data that we collect, and predictions and probabilities that we formulate on the basis of that data. So it's externally validated. Logic and other deductive systems like mathematics are different. They're internally validated. The knowledge that is produced by a deductive system is a priori in nature, which means that it is justified by itself, in and of itself. The system proves itself true. It sets a foundation, a set of rules and principles that we can apply to other things to help inform other things, such as science. So deductive systems like logic and mathematics inform science. Inform inductive systems. You need logic to be able to reason well when you're thinking about how to conceptualize a scientific problem, how to think outside the box. And you need mathematics in order to quantify your data and make sense of it. Inductive systems like science, however, cannot inform deductive systems. Deductive systems don't need it. They're not affected by anything on the outside. There's nowhere in nature do we find 1 + 1 = 2. We can show that 1 + 1 = 2 in and of itself. We can show the rules of logic to be valid in and of themselves. We can't find numbers in nature at all. So the nature of these two systems is differently. So when we're talking about how do we determine relevance of evidence in a logical argument, we can't appeal to science. We can't appeal to nature. We can't appeal to anything inductive in nature. We have to find the internal formal issues with the argument itself. A logical argument's form, when proper, must have 3 components to it. You have an assumption. That's the thing you take to be true as the foundation of your argument. You have at least one premise, which is your evidence that you draw from that assumption. And you have your conclusion, which you logically deduce from the combination of your assumption and the evidence of the argument. And that makes a valid argument. A valid argument is one in which the truth of the conclusion follows logically from the truth of its evidence. These are the 2 probably most common examples of argument forms. They're sort of skeletons, templates for arguments. So these letters are variables, they're placeholders. You can replace these variables with any statements, and if you follow these forms, then what you will have is a valid argument. So modus ponens, if P then Q, or P implies Q as part of your assumption, and then you have P as well, then it logically follows that Q is the case. Modus tollens, same statement, starting with if P then Q, or P implies Q. If we also have not Q, this is a negation, the squiggly line, then it follows that not P. So let's say if we vote for Donald Trump, then he becomes president. We vote for Donald Trump, therefore he becomes president. That is valid and true in the case of 2016. If we vote for Donald Trump, he becomes president. That's true, right? Donald Trump is not president. Therefore, we did not vote for Donald Trump, or at least enough to satisfy the electoral vote. Now, this statement is still valid. It's just not true. It's valid in the sense that the truth of its claim follows from the truth of its evidence. If we take Donald Trump, if we vote for Donald Trump, then he will become president. And then if we enter for, Q, a negation in modus tollens, saying that Donald Trump is not president, what we have is false evidence. But what results from that is a false conclusion. Therefore, the truth value of the claim is still consistent with the truth value of the evidence. They're both false. If you have true evidence and a true conclusion, then it is still valid. That would be the case of modus ponens. This is sort of the affirmative version of this argument form. But it is impossible for this statement to be valid. If we vote for Donald Trump, then he becomes president. We vote for Donald Trump, therefore he does not become president. That is invalid because you have a false claim with true evidence. So if we break down the slippery slope argument to its logical form, what it's trying to do is produce a modus tollens type argument. It's trying to deduce a negation from a conditional statement.